Hi, everybody. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. My name is Shannon Wood, and I'm one of the assistant directors in the annual giving office at Holy Cross. Again, thank you all for joining us. Tonight's City View Boston panel features some fantastic Holy Cross Young alumni to talk a little bit about their experience living, working, and all things Boston. I'm going to turn it over to them in a second to kind of do some introductions and go through our questions tonight, but did want to do a few kind of housekeeping notes before we get started. If you all have questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. That'll direct the question right to one of our staff. Myself, Tom, and then Tom Cadigan, who's from Alumni Relations, will also be helping to moderate with us tonight. And feel free to kind of answer them throughout the presentation, and we'll get to as many questions as we can in addition to the ones that have been pre-submitted for the presentation tonight. So I will open it up to our panelists, and if everyone wouldn't mind just giving us kind of a quick introduction, talk a little bit maybe about your Holy Cross experience and how you ended up in Boston. Emily, I'll start with you if that works.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, I'm Emily Correia. I was Holy Cross class of 2014. I was a member of the cheerleading team, and I worked in the athletic department during my time there, and actually for a few years after. I currently work in public relations in pharma, and got my first job out of Holy Cross, I think a week before spring break senior year, so knew that I was coming to Cambridge and have stayed since.
Great, thank you, Emily. Jordan, you're at the other top of my screen, so we'll pass to you.
Hey everyone, I'm Jordan Enos. I'm class of 2013. I was a math major, a baseball player, and a resident assistant. So pretty busy at Holy Cross. I came to Holy Cross from Stockton, California, and upon graduation moved to Newton, but then quickly moved the next year to Cambridge. I've been in Cambridge for the last 6+ years. I work in business development for an asset management company in the city until August, when I'll be moving to Michigan to get my MBA at the University of Michigan.
Fantastic, thank you, Jordan. Alex.
Hi everyone, my name is Alex Bonano, class of 2017. During my time at Holy Cross, I was a Latin American and Caribbean Studies major with a minor in Global Health Studies, which I created both of those. So if there's any questions in regards to that, feel free to send me an email after. I'm originally from Boston. I grew up in Boston, and I actually was living in New York for 2 years post-graduation, working as an educator for in high school in Boston, and now returning back home to Boston. I currently work in nonprofit at Big Brothers Big Sisters of Greater Boston, which is a mentoring agency.
Fantastic, thank you, Alex. And Renata.
Hi, everyone. My name is Renata. I was a psychology major and French minor on the pre-health track when I was at Holy Cross. I'm class of 2017. I actually lived in New Hampshire for 1.5 years with my family, so I was commuting to Boston every day. So I've experienced that for people who don't live in the Boston area but want to commute into the city. And then after 1.5 years, I moved closer to the city here in Everett. I currently work as a clinical research coordinator at Massachusetts General Hospital. I knew after graduating I wanted to work in Boston at one of the hospitals or one of the healthcare facilities. And this summer I'll actually be moving to Connecticut to start a nurse practitioner program at Yale University. So if anyone has any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer those as well.
Fantastic, thanks, Renata. So as you can see, I feel like we tried to get a great kind of broad range of what Boston looks like, and commuting and moving in and out and that kind of thing. And I thought that would be helpful for kind of our young alumni looking to see if Boston's the right place for you to be in the coming years. And thought that all of these different experiences would be helpful in kind of helping to guide you in your decision making. So we're going to turn this basically over now to some of the pre-submitted questions through the registration page. And so we'll basically get started with that. Some of kind of the more general questions we'll start with. So first question, what advice would you give to a young alum thinking about moving to Boston? I guess, Renata, I'll start back with you if that's okay.
Hi, so my general advice is to just be prepared for it in terms of the finances and knowing how you're going to get to work and how you're going to balance both work and life. For the first year and a half, as I mentioned, I was commuting from New Hampshire every day. I felt like after graduating, I wanted to save up money before living in Boston rather than going directly into the city and start living there. And then after I saved up enough money, I felt comfortable moving closer to the city and renting. So my general advice is just to prepare for it and know what kind of support that you have when you go into the city.
Yeah, I can jump in there as well. I also commuted for the first 3 months. I was working in Cambridge and living in Milford, which is about half an hour between Worcester and Boston. And it was a lot to do. It was probably 2.5 hours in the car, sometimes each way. And then I moved into the city. I now live in the North End. I've been in the same apartment for the last 6 years, which has been really, really great. I think the best piece of advice I can give you is if you have a job already lined up and that's why you're looking to move into the city, find the train line, find the bus line, find whatever transportation is going to get you to your office, to wherever it is that you're going to be going every day. Because having a commute where you need to take a bus to a train or something along those lines can really impact your mood. And you end up coming into work. The T is not super reliable, especially in the winter. They're working on it, allegedly. But when you end up 45 minutes delayed because the red line derailed, then you're getting into work already late, already stressed. So try to find somewhere for you that's going to be a pretty easy commute. It doesn't necessarily need to be quick and short if that's not what you can afford in terms of where you're living in the city, but find somewhere that's pretty direct, or find somewhere where you can, walk halfway and then take the train 3 stops, because that'll seriously impact the way that you view your home, the way that you view your work life, and just your general mood.
That's great, Emily. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I just wanted to add into that, especially in regards to like transportation, which I know we had a question about that, but Boston is a pretty walkable city. It's dubbed the walking city. So just to Emily's point about, public transportation, there are a lot of buses that you can take to get certain places, but I also find it to be very important, just look and see, well, where's the closest train station, and if that's a 10-minute walk, then go for that, because it is a pretty walkable city, and even though 10 minutes might seem far, you actually get there quicker, and you might actually take time off of your commute if you decide to bypass the bus and just walk a little bit further to get to the nearest train.
I think the only other thing I would add is to remember that if it's your first place in Boston, like, it's only a year. If you don't find every single thing you're looking for, it's okay. Realize that there are going to be trade-offs. And if that means you'd rather be on the train, but you're paying a little more, or you're farther outside of the city, if that's what's important to you, then go for that. And you have time to find a place that's going to be more of a long-term solution if the first place is not right for you. So again, just realize that there are trade-offs, and you're probably not going to be able to get everything that you want in your first apartment or house.
Thank you all. That's fantastic. Okay, so we're going to move on to the second question here, which kind of goes along with this, but what is your favorite and then least favorite part of living in Boston? Does anybody want to start?
I can
Jordan, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Honestly, I think the summer in Boston's great. It's pretty hot, but just being around downtown when you have a lot of people walking around, and being a part of that, and having the opportunity to just take advantage of the different restaurants and bars that are seated outside, or other activities that are here throughout the city. I really enjoy that. While I think getting around is very easy, even though public transportation is not always the most reliable, it's very easy to figure out and to get around, in my opinion. And so I definitely utilize it. Even though I didn't have much background with public transportation before moving to Boston. It was very easy to figure out and get around.
Great, thank you. Alex, do you want to say what your favorite or least favorite thing is?
Sure. For me, I would say my favorite part is sort of like what I already had mentioned and what Jordan sort of mentioned is, how small of a city it is. It's big enough where, you feel like you're in a city, but it's also small enough where if you need to get, to a certain place, you don't have to like plan to leave like 2 hours in advance. Like living in New York City, I felt like I was sitting on the train for sometimes an hour, versus in Boston, like the train is a little bit it's just quicker to get certain places. So definitely need, public transportation, and that walkability aspect of the city I really enjoy and appreciate. And then the only thing that I would say that I don't like is, how early everything closes in Boston. So like nightlife and things like that are, they do tend to end a little bit earlier. The train does end. So you sort of have to make sure you're planning for that when you are going out to enjoy yourself, that you make sure that you're planning ahead in regards to how you're going to get home and when you're trying to get home, because the train will end.
Thanks, Alex. Emily.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to go in reverse order on that. When I first moved into the city, like Jordan, I didn't have much experience with public transit. It was, if we ever wanted to take the commuter rail in, but that was very, very rare. So I was really apprehensive at first about taking the train. My first day to work, when I moved into the city, my mom rode the T with me, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. It was really kind of scary. And then I realized that it wasn't so scary. Coming from a small town, a city just seemed so big and almost fearful, but it's not. Boston, to Alex's point, is so small. It's such a walkable city. It's such a neighborhood that you get really used to it. And I think that that's one of my favorite things about Boston is you can take a walk from, where I live in the North End, and an hour later, you're in the middle of Fenway. And you could have stopped 3 times along your way. And it's just so easy to get from place to place and just find yourself walking around. I take friends who are coming in from other cities or coming in from other places, walking around all the time, because it's just so beautiful and so easy to get around. And everything is along your way, no matter where you're going. There's no place that you can't get to from another place, which is really, really great. I think Boston's a wonderful city for that.
Thanks, Emily. Renata.
I'm just going to echo what everyone else said. My least favorite is waiting in the cold for public transportation. For me, I take the bus or use the T, and I get cold very easily. So waiting during the winter for the bus is not my favorite part. And on the weekends as well, it doesn't run as frequently as it does during the week, especially when it's like rush hour. There's a bus or train coming every 2 to 3 minutes or every 10 minutes. So it's great during the week when I'm getting around. But then on the weekends, I really have to plan out in advance when to expect a certain bus or expect a certain T. And sometimes I just end up Ubering, and I just have to accept the fact that it's the weekend. It's not going to be as convenient for me to travel via public transportation. So that's one thing I dislike about Boston. What I do love about it, it is a very vibrant and lively city. There's so much to do. And another thing is, I feel like Boston, New York, and DC are like where a majority of Holy Cross students go after graduating. So I had so many friends in the area that I could hang out with. And there are some Holy Cross people I've even run into at work or on the T. And so it's nice running into, you know, Holy Cross community around Boston. So that's one thing I do like about it too.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we're gonna transition a little bit now to talk about kind of finances and renting, and a little bit more about kind of like apartment shopping. And just based on everybody's introductions, we can see that I feel like some people have moved several times. Emily stayed put in her current apartment for a little bit, so I feel like we have a kind of a wide range of people to answer some questions about the process of looking for an apartment in Boston. So I guess I'll kind of just open it up to anybody that wants to answer these, but basically, like, you know, do you have any tips? How early do you recommend looking for a place? Any successes that you would want to share on kind of your current living situation, or anything you could do differently? Emily, do you want to start that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was really lucky where my cousin was looking for a roommate for the fall. So I did have someone that I could go ahead and move in with. And we went looking together, but use a real estate agent. Don't be afraid. All of the best listings are on the MLS, which is something that you can't access as just a person looking to sublet an apartment or looking to kind of make that jump yourself. And it is unfortunately expensive, but it's worth it. You'll find a, you know, better apartment. You'll find more listings that can be tailored a little bit more to what it is that you're looking for and where you're looking. So that's definitely a really, really big tip that I learned from her. And I, like you said, I haven't moved. I've been very fortunate. I think on my 4th roommate, but I've been able to maintain my place, and my landlord really likes me. So they haven't raised my rent, which is almost unheard of in the city. But that in itself, like, once you move into a place, get to know your landlord, get to know your property management company, be ahead of rent if you can be financially at the beginning, because that will serve you so well long term. When Corona hit, they can't show apartments, or they couldn't at the very beginning. And my landlord called me and said, if you sign another lease for another year, I'll give you a month free. And so I had the opportunity now where I'm not going to be paying rent for the month of September because we have this really great relationship. So if you do ever move in and intend to stay in a place, get to know your landlord, because it can pay off incredibly well in the end.
Yeah, and Emily, to follow up with that question, and I guess I'll throw this to the same kind of pool of like rent and all that stuff, but I know you said you're on your 4th roommate too, so it would be great to just hear about kind of your experience with like finding someone, whether it's, you know, someone you know or a random person or that kind of thing.
Yeah, so I started out living with my cousin, like I said, and I was with her for 1 full lease. And then she decided to move out, and our landlord gave me the option of maintaining. And so the same thing happened with the next roommate and the one after that. And it's just been kind of luck where I've looked and I've had friends that are on the same lease cycle, which is one really kind of big bonus about the rent cycle in Boston, is almost everybody is on a September 1st lease. It's a pain to move in, so get ready. But everybody is going to be looking to renew their lease or looking for a new roommate if they choose to move, or looking for a new place at the same time. So you're kind of all in the same world together, and you have that opportunity to reach out to your Holy Cross network, reach out to friends within your network, or even just, you know, friends of friends. And you can have that where my second roommate was a friend of a friend, and my last roommate actually was a friend of a friend as well. So just things worked out where my roommate was leaving and I had an open bedroom and ended up bringing someone in. And I've had a lot of friends that have had luck through Craigslist or through other kind of services that way to finding a roommate where there's, you know, one single open bedroom. So don't be afraid to try those. I know that they might seem a little scary, but go in, do your research, talk to people. It's not that bad. You can end up with some of the greatest friends of your life that way.
Thanks, Emily. Jordan, I heard some head nods or saw some on there, so maybe some an echo at that point.
Yeah, so it's been a pretty long time since I've been looking for a place, but I've had a bunch of roommates like Emily over the last 6-7 years. And to be perfectly honest, I've done kind of a gambit. I started in my place in Newton. I used Craigslist to find the apartment and to find a roommate. Or I guess the place was already filled, so I just found an apartment through Craigslist and had roommates there. When I moved to Cambridge, I connected with some of my friends from Holy Cross that were also looking. So the Holy, like Renata said earlier, I believe there's a lot of like Holy Cross people in the city. And so you can lean on that community, and a lot of people will be looking together. And I was lucky my first year in Cambridge to do that. And then I used Craigslist again. I missed on that one. It was fine, but it wasn't the best roommate. And then used it again and found a great roommate who stuck around for 2 years. And then through other, like I play baseball in the summer or some other like volunteer organization or whatever I do. I connected with somebody from that organization with their friend was looking for a roommate 2 years ago. And so I connected through that. I think the biggest thing is don't be shy and don't be afraid to talk to people. It doesn't matter if you know them or not. If you have some kind of connection, reach out if you're looking for a roommate. Or, I mean, I think that piece of advice goes for anything in life. Like if you need or want to connect with anyone, the worst thing you can do is not do anything. I think you might as well try to reach out and see what happens, because the worst that can happen is they say no and you're right back where you started.
Thanks, Jordan. Renata also saw some head nods there, so.
Honestly, I found my apartment through like talking to people. Again, I waited 1.5 years before I moved into the city, and a lot of my coworkers are around my age. So I talked to them. I asked what did they do and how did they find their apartments and roommates, and they gave me a few resources. Like there's Facebook groups for people in the Boston area looking for roommates, and so you can look for various Facebook groups and connect with people on there. And then I had a friend, or one of my coworkers, she goes to a church, and there was like an online platform that they used where people were looking for roommates, and so I checked that out. And then ultimately how I got to the apartment where I'm living today. I actually just went to my hair appointment in Boston, and I was just talking about, I'm looking at different neighborhoods. I'm looking at Cambridge, JP, and all these different places for apartments. And one of the business owners of the hair salon I went to said, we're actually looking to rent out a room if you're interested. And they showed me pictures and a video of the place. And I was like, oh, okay, like I'll maybe consider it if it's like within my price range and if it's close to work. And it was within my price range, and it was very close to work. One of the major reasons why I moved closer to the city is because I was commuting from New Hampshire every day. That's not the most fun thing to do. And so luckily it just really worked out. So not being afraid to put yourself out there, but also it's also a huge judgment call too, because you're on places like Facebook and Craigslist, and then I'm at my hair appointment and here are these business owners talking to me about their home. And so it does require a lot of judgment too if it's people you don't know. But again, there are so many people that I did know who were like, oh, I have a friend or a cousin or someone who's looking for a roommate, and I personally know them. And this is like, if someone knows someone, it's really, they're kind of already vetted, or they can give you a heads up on like how they are as roommates. And so that's always helpful. So I would advise for people not to be afraid to reach out to the Holy Cross community or friends and family, and also these various platforms that I mentioned and also Jordan mentioned.
Thanks, Renata. Alex, any other feedback or thoughts?
No, I'm pretty fortunate. I live at home, so I don't pay rent. I am in the process of starting, to look for my own place. So I've been taking notes from what everyone else said and shared. But I think like the only thing that I would share is really do your research on the neighborhoods of Boston, because that's really going to impact the price for your rent, depending on where you are trying to live. So definitely, do your research on the areas, because, it might, for example, you wanting to live closer to your job, and if your job is downtown, the price range sort of goes up as you get closer to downtown. So definitely do your research on where you would like to live, and, and where your listings are, because that definitely will impact your prices for your rent.
Great.
Sorry,
And I
I
think
think the
just to add
other.
to that, oh,
Go ahead, Renata.
go ahead, Jordan.
No, we're not
I
good.
was just going to add to that. I think Trulia.com is a website that I use to check out the neighborhood that I'm in. And I'm sure there's other websites that are similar to that, but that's one website I would recommend people could use.
The other thing that I just wanted to jump in, I remember Shannon mentioned kind of the timeline of when people start to look. Again, it's been a while since I've looked, but I didn't actually start looking right out of school until I had already graduated, probably around like end of May, early June. Most of the time leases, like people in current leases have to give their notice if they're going to re-sign or not by like the end of May, some earlier, some later, but I think generally the end of May is around a good time, and that still gives people plenty of time to look. And that's when you'll probably see the most listings start to come up for that September 1st timeline.
Also, kind of on that, if you're not ready to move in September, that's okay. There are some apartments that have kind of later leases, or some apartments that are only 8-month leases or something like that. So keep your eyes open for those, but also don't be afraid to sublet. There are a lot of students that are going away for the spring semester. So they're looking to rent their place from January until June when they're coming back. Or, it might be a little late now, but there are places that might be looking to rent from June 1st to August, because people aren't going to be in the city for the summer, or even just for a month. So don't be afraid to kind of look into a sublet, because that'll give you a feel for an area too. You could really try out before you sign on for a whole year. So that's always an option, and just, be okay with that option, because like Jordan said earlier, it's not forever. You're not going to be in your apartment for the rest of your life.
Perfect. Thank you all so much. Okay, so we will move off the kind of rent and shopping topic and kind of go on to just like transportation and getting around the city in general. And I know a lot of you did kind of cover this in kind of your introductions and just talking about what you liked and disliked. But I guess my question is, does anybody have a car that's on the call, or do you need a car, or is public transportation kind of work, or walking, and your feedback on that?
I do have a car. I do not use it around the city. I use it around Cambridge. So when it's like a little less packed, and for getting outside of the city, I appreciate having that car to be able to get out of the city, but it's not necessary. And it's honestly more of a hassle to have one in the city. I think I know I've had friends in the North End. It's almost impossible to have a car. Southie is very tough unless you have an apartment that has a parking space. So if you're planning or thinking about having a car, I think the biggest thing to think about is the parking situation. You could be spending, $200 to $300 a month just to have a parking spot, and that may not even be covered. So you're still having to shovel it out. And because street cleaning in Boston is frequent, and so if you're relying on street parking, you're going to be in a world of hurt, always moving your car and trying to deal with that and not getting tickets. I would recommend not having a car if you're going to be living downtown, but I do enjoy it for getting away from the city.
Thanks, Jordan. Renata, I saw some head nods, so.
So as I mentioned, for the first year and a half or so, I was living in New Hampshire with my family. I don't have a car, but my family has a car. And since I was commuting the furthest, the car is basically mine. I was using it all the time. So I would drive about 45 minutes to Lowell, and then from Lowell take the commuter rail into North Station, which is one of the stations in Boston. And then from there I would walk from work. And now when I moved closer to the city, now I use the T to get around, which is a lot more convenient. I thought it would cut down my commute time, but now, and since I'm closer to the city, there's traffic that I'm dealing with since I'm on a bus and not the metro. But there are ways for me to get to the metro if I wanted to. But with that being said, I don't have a car since I moved to Boston. Again, it was my family car and I don't need it. I feel fine getting around the city without a car. The only reason why I would like to have a car is for the weekends. And that's because, again, it's not convenient at all to get around the city via public transportation. If you're like on a mission, you're trying to get somewhere, those timing is not going to work out with the T. And so I wish I had a car to just get around the weekend. But ultimately I end up Ubering or doing half public transportation and half Ubering because, again, it just runs less frequently and it's not very convenient. But with that being said, again, for the most part, you do not need a car if you are closer to the city because the public transportation is so accessible and it can take you anywhere.
Thanks, Renata. Alex.
Pretty much just echoing what everyone else said. I mean, I was born and raised in the inner city of Boston, so even like where I live, like my family has a car, and that's mostly because where my family works, they don't work in the city, and so you can definitely have a car and in the city, but it's not necessary, and it's definitely going to be a headache if you don't work. I mean, if you do work in like the greater Boston metropolitan area, you don't need a car, since if your job is located in that area. But definitely, I would say, just really just weigh out what you want to do. Like what Jordan was saying, he wants to be able to go and to leave and to get out and to go places. And if that's like really what's going to be helping you and helping your mental health, or just helping your overall well-being, to be able to get out and go hiking outside of Massachusetts, or do any of those extracurricular things, or maybe you travel to go back home on the weekends to visit family, really just sit and think about why you need your car and what does having that car do for you and your well-being and your overall mental health. And if you need it, then bring it, but it's definitely not necessary at all.
Thanks, Alex. And Emily, I saw you laugh about the North End parking situation, which I've heard about too. So any comments on that?
The North End is full of streets that are 2 cars wide, they're one way, not 2 cars wide, and they allow parking. So you're going to be jumping curbs everywhere you go. It's a little crazy, so I wouldn't recommend it. Ubers are kind of dime a dozen. You can get them if you really needed to get to somewhere quicker. But frankly, the amount of times early on living in the city that I was like, oh, I need to take an Uber. I have to get there faster. And I realized that the T would have been probably 15 or 20 minutes faster to get there is kind of crazy. The city it's a walking city. It is a transportation city. It is not built for driving. Boston was built before cars were. So it is not designed for a lot of cars. They recently redid the Longfellow Bridge, which is a really big one between Cambridge and Boston. And they took away a car lane because they needed more bicycle space and they needed more pedestrian space. So, I mean, I think that speaks a lot to the need for a car. I wouldn't do it if you don't have to.
Great, thanks, Emily. Okay, so we'll transition now to another topic, which is kind of like social life in Boston and friends and family and that kind of stuff. So we got several questions about kind of how do you stay connected? How do you make new friends in Boston? What's kind of the social life look like? And obviously with the pandemic, it may look a little bit different these last few months, but maybe to just kind of talk about your experience socially in Boston. Renata, do you want to start?
Sure. So as I mentioned, there's so many people here from Holy Cross, and so socially it was fine for me. I mean, even when I was commuting from New Hampshire, every day I would find myself still hanging out in Boston or in Cambridge or in Somerville, wherever my friends were. Um, and I'm lucky for my job, there are other people there who are around my age, and so they were also people that I could hang out with outside of work. And with them, like I met new people and new friends that way. Um, and again, just being connected with other Holy Cross friends, I meet more of their like hometown friends, and that way I meet new people. Um, and then another way, I did use a dating app, and so I would meet new friends that way too. If I was just like, if you just ultimately wanted to be friends with, I think it's also a great way to find, like to connect with new people. And so that was another way where I found, like a new social group to hang out with. And ultimately the reason why was because that person knew someone from Holy Cross. And again, just going back to Holy Cross and how many people are here, so you can really find a community and make the social scene work for you. And if you don't, just try to find friends or family who know people in the area that could connect you. And maybe there are people at work that you can talk to that could introduce you to new people. And then the other way that I would recommend finding people to hang out with is getting like a gym membership or some class or some activity that you enjoy to do, or some hobby, and you can meet people that way and develop like a community that way as well.
Thanks, Renata. Alex, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, for me, similar to Renata, I would say definitely, connect with your coworkers. Don't take their invitations lightly. A lot of your coworkers will ask you like, oh, do you want to come here? Do you want to go there? And definitely, take them up on that offer. Another thing that I would say is, use Eventbrite. Look at what events are happening in Boston. There's also like young professional groups on social media for Boston as well. And I would say, definitely like take those opportunities to connect that way. And I was going to say something else, and then now I'm blinking. But definitely Eventbrite. Definitely, using your alum network in Boston. Definitely, with your coworkers. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. But I feel like I had something else. But if it comes back, I'll say it again.
Yeah, Alex, we can come back to you too. And Emily, I'll pass this to you, but also, and I guess follow-up questions for Alex and Renata after too. But like, are your Holy Cross friends all in Boston? I know Renata said I feel like New York, DC, and Boston are kind of the three hot spots, but just that as an additional question as well.
Yeah. So one thing that I found when I first moved to Boston was I hung out with my same Holy Cross friends. Two of my college roommates lived down the street from me, and I saw them all the time. But I was really encouraged to kind of step outside of my direct friend group. Actually, kind of big push from Jordan to join the Holy Cross Club of Boston. And I was able to meet a lot of people that I never overlapped with at Holy Cross that are now some of my best friends. And so it's a great opportunity. And, full disclosure, shameless plug, I'm the current president of the club. So please, for anybody that's on this call, join, reach out to me, let me know, because we run a few events every year that are kind of bigger social events. And then we also have a lot of resources, like we run monthly home buyer seminars, we run monthly financial wellness seminars, and it's all with people within our Holy Cross community. And then within that network, I also was introduced to some people through the Harvard Club of Boston, and was encouraged to join that through my Holy Cross connection. When I first joined, the president of the Harvard Club was actually a Holy Cross alum, which was really, really cool for me. He was the first president of the club that had ever not been an undergrad from Harvard. So it was a really great kind of way to bridge that gap. I have a number of friends that are in the junior league, or people that do intramural sports through the city. And just finding something that kind of makes you feel like you're finding a community of people that are like-minded to you whether that is joining the club in Boston or, picking up a sports league. I have friends that are doing intramural cornhole or were. So like there are sports for everybody that way. Whether you're, somebody that's super athletic and wants to be involved in a like big team sport, or somebody that just wants to go to a bar and play cornhole. So look for what it is that you want to get out of the city, because the city has it. It's not, the city isn't going to bring the opportunities to you. There are so many. Don't be afraid to grab a friend that you know from Holy Cross and go out of your comfort zone. Go join a league together. You could get put on some random soccer team that nobody else on the, on the team, but you could end up making some really, really great friends that way, or being introduced to people that you wouldn't have had that opportunity to, because a lot of my friends I've met through other people.
Yeah, Alex, go ahead.
I remember what I was going to say. So, because of the fact that I spent 2 years right after college living in New York, like I grew up in Boston. I lived in Boston all of my life, but I didn't grow up as, I didn't have that experience as like a new college graduate or young adolescent in Boston. So I had all of that experience in New York. And so for me, it was also like relearning my city as, a 22-year-old, etc. So one of the things that I did that most people probably don't think to do is I also used the Airbnb, the experiences to see like what Boston offers. And so that's also like a good way to see, different activities to do. And since a lot of the activities also have other people doing those activities, you get to like meet other people while you're there. So I feel like I've been able to explore my city in a new light as, well, I'm 24 now, but yeah, moving back to Boston, I feel like I was rediscovering what Boston meant to me since I was in New York for those 2 years. So just, continue to try to find unconventional ways to get to know the city, and definitely, join a hobby or doing any of, other activities that you really enjoy.
And then I also want to add one more thing. I would go to a lot of cafes and libraries to study, since I was, studying for the juries and I was doing applications and all of that. And I just wanted to get out of my apartment and go somewhere else to be productive. And so I actually did meet a few people at the cafe. I am a pretty social person, so it's not really too difficult for me to strike up a conversation with someone and then ultimately befriend them. But that's also another way that I made new friends and made new connections around the city and learned different things about the city. So again, not being afraid to put yourself out there. If you're more of an introvert and don't really prefer doing that, then you definitely don't need to, but going to public spaces and again, like doing a hobby, joining a choir or whatever is a great way to meet new people.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
So really nice, like tangible, some tangible ideas. And Jordan, I'll pass it to you too, but I would love your feedback too on having your family being kind of far away and what that looks like for you.
Yeah, I was going to touch on that. So I'll echo everyone on how to make friends in the city is really, you just kind of have to lean on your friends that are here, but also be willing and ready to go outside of your comfort zone. But in terms of staying connected to family and friends, I think you really have to be intentional about making time for that, because it's so easy to fall into a routine of getting up, going to work, working out, coming home, making dinner, whatever it is, whatever your routine is, it's very easy to get into that. And it's a grind from work. So you have to make sure that you find time to connect. And I will say that with my family, I'm very good at it. I mean, to me, I think it's really good. I every Sunday call my parents to talk to them and just, check in, see how they're doing, let them know what's going on in my life. I think with friends from home, I think that's been a little more challenging for me, but I think over the last couple of years, I've tried to find when things pop up in my head and I think of somebody from home, rather than pushing it off and saying, hey, I'll text them later. I just text them at that point, and it's at least just starting something, right? If they don't respond for another, few hours, then at least you've done it and you've tried and you have planted that seed to stay connected. So I think it's being aware when things pop up that remind you of people. That's when to take advantage of it. Don't wait and put it off.
Jordan, I love that. And I'm going to open this question up to the group too, and whoever can chime in. But what is your favorite kind of like non-work activity to do? And I know some people talked about like cornhole and that, which I love, and I wish I could do a league of that. But Emily, go ahead.
Yeah, I think for me, I love the opportunity to go with friends to like an outdoor beer garden, or last summer they had a wine garden, which was really fun. Just being outside and also being able to do something like I love craft beer. It's something that I really, really enjoy. And I have a lot of friends that also really like it. And so I have a group of friends that every weekend we try to go to a different beer garden, or we would try to go to a different brewery in the area. And so that kind of gave us this standing date where, you know, that was something that we did every single weekend. And whether I could make it to every one or not, it was still something that we always did. So having kind of a routine like that, where you try to do something and you intentionally make a plan that, you know, whether it's Saturday afternoons or I have a group of friends that are my best friends from college, because she doesn't live here anymore. And we intend to go out for drinks every third Thursday of the month. And whether we do or not, it's just something that we kind of have on our calendar, and it's a way for us all to remember to call each other. So that's something that I personally really love. I have a lot of friends that have a weekly trivia team. I know I personally, when I had a group of friends that really liked trivia, we went to the same bar in Central Square every single Wednesday night. And it was a group of people that it was my friends' friends from college, and me and one of my roommates from college. And then, you know, 2 friends from high school and a friend of a friend of a friend. And it was just kind of this kind of group of people. So finding something that you can put and intentionally do, to Jordan's point, every week, every month, you know, every quarter even, that's something that you can do to really make the city yours.
Thanks, Emily. That's awesome. Alex, your favorite non-work activity, and you had so many good ideas about different things to find, but.
I love spin. So I've been really into, you know, taking spin classes. I'm actually looking into buying my own bike since, you know, COVID, can't really go anywhere to do that. But yeah, spin has been really like one of my favorite physical activities too. You know, you get to exercise. So I really enjoy spin. Dancing. I know Renata, we've gone out before, so you know, just finding you know, places where I can continue to dance, where I can continue to celebrate my culture. Boston is a very multicultural city, and so definitely, you know, if you are of a certain culture, definitely it is represented here, and so you can definitely find you know, how and where, you know, to celebrate your identity, and to feel like, you know, you're within community while you're here, even if you are like away from home or away from your culture.
Great, thank you, Alex. Jordan.
So I have always been an athlete. So I've been playing baseball since graduating. And so I like that in the summer. And I think Emily mentioned it, or somebody did earlier, all of the like social Boston sports team opportunities, like whether that's flag football, basketball, soccer, cornhole, those types of activities are what I like to do. But also I think Boston's a great opportunity to take in live events, like a baseball game at Fenway. It's very easy if you work in the city or live in the city to just pop over for an evening game or a night game, or even like the Celtics or Bruins at the Garden. And then there's always some kind of concert going on in, you know, one of the, obviously not right now, but in one of the venues in the city. There's something going on at all times, from a live sports or music or entertainment opportunity. And then one other thing that I will plug, because I haven't been in a while, but it is one of my favorite things to do for a while, was the comedy club in the North End is really cool. It's called Improv Asylum. It's a good, fun, kind of different live entertainment opportunity. And it's not like super well known unless you're in that comedy or theater scene.
Great, thanks, Jordan. Renata, throwing it to you.
So I really enjoy spending time with my friends in the area, or if I wanted to have a day for myself, like going to a cafe and just reading, or walking around Boston. Boston's a really beautiful city, like walking along the Charles or hanging out in the Commons, or finding different restaurants to go to. That's one thing I really like. There's so many, as Alex said, it's a very multicultural city, and so I made it a point to try to go to different restaurants to try out different cuisines with friends, and so that's something I really enjoyed doing. Alex mentioned that we love to go dancing, so we dance a lot of bachata and salsa, and a popular spot in Cambridge that I went to was La Fabrica and Havana. Those are two popular places if anyone is interested in bachata and salsa. And then in Cambridge, I actually went to Improv Boston. It's different from Improv Asylum in North End, but same idea. That was a really cool experience. I didn't participate, but I was watching, and I know for people who are interested, like they do offer classes and stuff like that. So if that's something you're interested in doing, you should definitely check out. I think it was a great show, and I can tell people put in a lot of time and effort and are really dedicated to it. So again, that's just to say that there's so much to do in the city. And if you know like what that particular hobby is, you can definitely find a team, or you're singing a choir or something with theater or something. You can really make it your own, and it's out there. You just need to go find it.
Fantastic, thank you. So just looking at the time, we have a few minutes left, so I want to give you all kind of an opportunity to answer one last final question, which is kind of any parting words or words of advice, and also kind of how you stay connected to Holy Cross in your time in Boston. I know Emily gave a shout out to the Boston Club, which is a fantastic opportunity. I'm sure she'll talk a little bit more about that, but just kind of how do you stay connected to Holy Cross in Boston? Emily, do you want to start?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, the club is a really, really great place. Our board right now, I believe, spans from grads from 2003 is the oldest, I think, and we have people from 2018, 2019, I believe. So we have a really kind of big group of people that want to come back and just love Holy Cross. So that's one way that I found really helpful to stay in contact with the school and to really feel like I'm still embraced back into that community that I left. I think, one of the big things that I was afraid of when I moved out of Holy Cross was all of my best friends are no longer, 3 doors down or 1 building away. But you're able to kind of reconnect with that group, to meet new people that have had the same experiences as you, but maybe they were 1 year before you got there, or they came in a year after you left. So that's been a really great way, and big shout out to Tom and Hannah and their team, because the amount of events that they put on in the city, or things like this, just this panel and speaking events like this really allow you to kind of get back to your roots and remember what it was like when you were on the hill, and really have that opportunity. But like I said before, the city is going to put in front of you all of the options, and it's not going to push any one thing on you. Everything is really what you make it. So before you move in and decide to dive into 1,000 things, think of it like the big activities fair your freshman year. Everything is bright and shiny, and everything is something that interests you. but consciously pick the things that are going to really make you excited and really make the time that you're spending outside of work worthwhile, because that's what's going to keep you coming back. And if Holy Cross is that thing for you, which I believe it is for most alumni, call Tom, call me, connect with Shannon, come back to somebody else that is still directly connected to the school, and find that way that you can make a meaningful difference back into the community that gave you so much while you were there.
Thanks, Emily. That was great. Alex, do you want to go now?
Sure. For me, I feel like it's very much like out of sight, out of mind. If you aren't actively, looking to stay connected with the college, it's very easy to not be. And so I feel like, one of the main tips that I would just say is, similar to what Emily said, like definitely reach out to alumni relations. If you're not going to be checking your Holy Cross email anymore, update your contact information. You really have to make the effort to stay connected. Otherwise you just won't. And definitely, if that's something that is of interest to you, update your contact information, read the emails that are being sent. There's a lot of information that goes out. If you're an alum of color, definitely join our Alana Facebook group for Alana alum. I'm also on the Bishop Haley committee for Alana alumni, which helps support current students of color on campus. So there's a lot of work and a lot of organizations that help with, alumni in general. There's like the Young Alumni Association, there's the overall HC Alumni Association board, there's Bishop Haley committee. So there's so many different ways in which you can stay connected. Just sort of what Emily was saying, like look at it as a fair and just pick and choose like what you honestly are going to be able to contribute to and what you're going to be able to maintain. There's a certain level of maintenance that has to go into being informed and being in the know in regards to your relationship with the college post graduation.
Thanks, Alex. Jordan.
Yeah, I think Alex hit the nail on the head when he said read your emails and update your contact information. There are a lot, like he said, a lot of different organizations here that help stay connected to the college, whether it's a panel like this that the college is very involved in, or the other alumni associations. I know there was a monthly luncheon series every month that had guest speakers and just ways to be connected with other alums in the area. I'll also echo what Emily said with the Club of Boston, Alumni Club of Boston. I'm a board member, and I have been a board member for 4 or 5 years. But what I'll say about it is it's pretty low effort if you want it to be. I mean, it's basically, we have events throughout the year, and you can show up and take part. And then we have one meeting every month that's about an hour, where we talk about events that we would like to put on, ways we can engage with the community. And you can be as involved or not involved as you want. If you show up and say nothing, totally fine. If you show up and have a million things to say, also totally fine. And I think what's great about the group is that it doesn't matter who's there. Whoever is there has equal amount of say and equal amount of input as everyone else in that room. And we truly do value the input of new members, because we have, obviously, if you've been on the board for so long, you view everything through this board lens. And when we get new people coming in, that's when we honestly see the most impactful new events or new applications for things that we might be trying to do with events. So I will echo Emily's sentiments and highly encourage anyone and everyone to come to an event and then to join the club. At least get on the email list and see what it's all about. Come to one meeting, and that can tell you if you want to take part or not.
Thanks, Jordan. And last but not least, Renata.
I honestly don't have too much to add. I think Jordan, Emily, and Alex really said everything. Just continue to check your Holy Cross email. There are so many events that go on, like more than you would expect after graduating, but there's so much to do. And again, you can be as involved or not involved as you'd like. If you have really good relationships with your professors, that's also one way to stay connected with the college. I know when I was looking for letters of recommendations, I'm glad I was able to stay in contact with some of my professors, and that way you could also learn about different things that are going on campus. So I guess that's one thing I would add to what everyone else was saying. Oh, and then also networking events. If you're looking for, I don't know if you're looking for a new job or just for new people to connect with, the Holy Cross alumni community are just, it's an amazing community. They're more than happy to help out fellow Holy Cross students and alums. So the Alumni Network is something I would 110% recommend tapping into, because again, once like you're part of the Holy Cross family, you're always going to be part of the Holy Cross family. Everyone would be more than willing to help out with anything in terms of providing mentorship or connecting you with someone at their job or connecting you with someone else. Just again, you need to put yourself out there and really make it known.
Thank you, Renata. And thank you to all of our panelists tonight for so much great information that was shared and so many tidbits. I know everyone's going to walk away with something learned tonight, which is fantastic. And I did just want to let all of our attendees know that we will be following this up with kind of some information about different resources that we have available that I know everyone on the call mentioned in terms of getting involved with the Alumni Association or volunteering in various ways. And as always, there's contacts at Holy Cross, Tom Cadigan, and myself, who are more than happy to kind of steer you in the right direction. So don't be a stranger, and feel free to reach out to us at any time, and we're more than happy to kind of connect you and help you, make your impact at Holy Cross, no matter where you land in the world after graduating. So on behalf of the panelists and the team at Holy Cross, we wanted to thank everyone so much for your time tonight and hope that everyone stays well. And thank you again.